I woke up, and his side of the bed was cold. Not cool, cold. The kind of cold that means someone has been gone for hours. I pressed my hand flat against the sheet where Soren sleeps and felt nothing. No warmth, no indent, no trace of the man who has held me every single night for 4 months without fail. He was gone. I sat up. The fire had died to embers. The room was dark and enormous and silent in the way that only a room built for someone his size can be silent, a silence that is usually filled by his breathing, by the low rumble of his wolf settling in his chest, by the sheer gravitational weight of him existing 3 feet from me. The silence was empty. I checked the bathing chamber. Empty. The study. Empty. I walked into the corridor barefoot in his shirt, the black one I stole 2 months ago that falls past my knees, and found 2 guards standing at their posts. Where's the king? They looked at each other. The look men exchange when they know something and have been told not to say it. The king departed before dawn, my lady, on horseback, alone. Before dawn, on horseback, alone. No guards, no Declan, no war council. Just gone, into the dark, without waking me, without awaking me, without a word. I went back to the bedroom. I sat on the edge of his bed, our bed, and I pressed my hand against the cold sheet again, as if pressing harder would bring the warmth back, as if touching the place where he had been would explain why he left. But I already knew why. He saw it. Last night, the thing I have spent 4 months hiding beneath long sleeves and high collars and careful angles, the thing burned into my skin that I have never shown anyone, that I swore I would carry to my grave rather than let him see, because I knew with the certainty of a woman who has spent her entire life being discarded, that seeing it would change the way he looked at me. And now, he was gone, and his side of the bed was cold. And the worst part, the part that made me curl forward and press my forehead to my knees and hold myself the way I used to hold myself in the dark rooms of Shadowfang, the worst part was that I was not surprised. I had been waiting for this. 4 months of warmth and safety and his arms around me and his wolf humming against my skin, and underneath all of it, every single day, the quiet voice in the back of my mind whispering, "He will leave when he sees what you really are." He saw. He left. But I need to go back. I need to tell you how it happened. How 4 months of careful hiding unraveled in a single moment. And I need to tell you what was on my shoulder, because you cannot understand why he left until you understand what Cain put there. I was 11 years old the first time Alpha Cain hit me. I say that plainly because it happened plainly. There was no dramatic build-up, no warning, no moment of tension that broke. I spilled water on a document on his desk. He backhanded me across the room. I hit the wall. He went back to reading. That was my introduction to what my life would be. Shadowfang did not treat Omegas as wolves. We were inventory. Resources allocated where needed, kitchens, laundry, fields. We slept in the lower quarters, ate what was left after ranked wolves finished, wore what was given, spoke when addressed. I arrived at Shadowfang when I was 8. I do not remember how. I do not remember anything before 8. No parents, no pack, no name other than the one they gave me, Ara. I have been told it means nothing in the old language. I think they chose it for that reason. From 8 to 18, I learned the rules. Keep your head down. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not look ranked wolves in the eye. Do not flinch when they hit you because flinching makes them hit harder. Do not cry where they can hear you because crying is weakness and weakness invites more pain. I learned the rules and I followed them perfectly and they beat me anyway. Because the rules were not meant to protect me. They were meant to make the beating feel justified. The brand came when I turned 18. Pack tradition, they called it. Every Omega in Shadowfang received it at maturity. A mark on the left shoulder. Cain's crest, a fang inside a circle, seared into the skin with an iron heated in the forge until it glowed white. I watched them heat it. They made me watch. That was part of the ritual. The Omega stands in the forge and watches the iron change color, black to red, red to orange, orange to white. The air above it shimmering with heat so intense you could feel it on your face from 6 feet away. They wanted you to see what was coming. They wanted the fear to be part of the mark. They held me down. 4 ranked wolves, 1 for each limb. I was 5'2" and 90 pounds, and they used 4 wolves to hold me still. The healer, though that word insults every real healer I have met since, stood to the side with a leather strap for me to bite. I did not bite it. I do not know why. Something in me, something stubborn and furious and barely alive, refused to open my mouth, refused to participate in my own branding. So I lay there on the stone floor with 4 wolves pinning me down, and I felt the iron press into my shoulder, and I screamed with my mouth closed. The smell. I need you to understand about the smell. Burning skin has a smell that does not leave you. It lived in my nose for weeks. It lives in my memory still. Some nights I catch a whiff of something burning, meat left too long on a fire, a candle guttering against its holder, and I am back on that floor with 4 wolves holding me down and the white iron descending toward my shoulder. The scar is the size of a man's fist. Raised, ridged. The skin healed wrong. Omega wolves heal slowly, and they did not treat it. It infected twice. The shape is distorted now, not the clean crest they intended, but something uglier. A mess of scarred tissue that tells the story of a girl held down and marked like livestock. I have not willingly let anyone see it since. 4 months with Sauron, 4 months of sleeping against his chest, 4 months of his arms around me, his wolf rumbling low and content, his hands, those enormous, terrifying, impossibly gentle hands, holding me like I was something worth protecting. And every single night, I wore a shirt to bed. He never asked. That was the thing about Sauron. He never pushed, never demanded. He noticed. I know he noticed, because those amber eyes miss nothing. But he let me have my silences. He let me keep my covered shoulders and my long sleeves in the careful way I always turned to the right when changing, so my left shoulder faced the wall. He gave me the most dangerous gift a broken woman can receive. He gave me time. And I used that time to fall so deeply in love with him that the thought of losing him made me physically ill. I love the way he read patrol reports with his brow furrowed and his lips moving slightly. I loved the way he bent down to speak to me because the height difference was so absurd that normal conversation required architectural adjustment. I loved the way his wolf surged when I entered a room. I could feel it, that pressure in the air that made every other wolf in the palace flinch, and it felt like sunlight to me, like being recognized at a molecular level. I loved him, and I was terrified that the brand on my shoulder would end it, not because Sauron was cruel. He was the opposite of cruel, but because the brand was proof of what I was: property. Inventory, a thing that had been held down and marked and owned, and I could not bear the thought of him looking at me and seeing that. Seeing the scar and understanding that the woman he held every night had been cattle, had been nothing. It happened on a Tuesday. Ordinary, unremarkable, the kind of day that has no business holding the worst moment of your life. We were in his chambers after dinner, fire lit, candles low. I was changing into the shirt I slept in, his shirt, the black one, and I was doing what I always did, turning to the right, facing the wall, pulling my dress over my head quickly, efficiently, the practiced motion of a woman who has been hiding something for so long it has become muscle memory. But the shirt snagged. The collar caught on the pin in my hair, and for 3 seconds, I have counted them 1,000 times. My left shoulder was bare and I was turned just enough, and the firelight hit the scar at exactly the angle that made every ridge and furrow of ruined skin visible, I heard him stop breathing. Not a gasp. Not a sound. The absence of sound. The sudden, total silence of a man whose lungs have stopped working. I pulled the shirt down, fast, yanked it over the scar and turned away from him, and my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't find the hem. Arara, his voice. Low, stripped of everything except the raw sound of a man processing something that his mind does not want to accept. It's nothing. Arara, look at me. I could not look at him. If I looked at him and saw what I was afraid of seeing, disgust, pity, the slow rearrangement of his face as he recalculated what I was worth, I would shatter. Whatever fragile, rebuilt version of myself I had constructed over 4 months of warmth and safety, and his heartbeat under my ear would come apart. And this time, there would be no putting it back together. Please don't, I whispered. Please don't ask me about it. Silence. A long silence. The kind that fills a room the way water fills a space, pressing against every surface. Then I heard him stand, heard his footsteps, heavy, measured, each one, deliberate, cross the room. Heard the door open, heard it close, he left. No word, no explanation, no good night. The man who had held me every night for 4 months, who had fought 50 wolves for me, who had cupped my face in his hands and told me I was the bravest person he had ever met, walked out of the room without a word. I stood there. The fire crackled. The candles flickered. His absence pressed against me like a physical thing. Then I did what I had spent 10 years learning to do at Shadowfang. I did not cry. I pulled the shirt tighter around my shoulders. I climbed into the bed that smelled like him. I pressed my face into his pillow, and I waited for morning with the absolute certainty of a woman who has been left before and recognizes the feeling. He did not come back, not at midnight, not at dawn. I know, because I did not sleep. Morning, his side of the bed cold. The guards telling me he rode out alone before dawn. I sat in the bedroom for an hour. Then I did the thing that broken women do when the worst happens. I got up. I washed my face. I went to the kitchen and ate breakfast. I walked the halls. I performed the motions of a person whose world has not ended, because the world does not stop when your heart does. It simply continues, and different, while you bleed quietly inside it. Declan found me in the library at noon. He looked uncomfortable. Declan always looked mildly uncomfortable around me, as though my smallness confused him on a fundamental level. But today the discomfort was different. Sharper. Guilty. He will return, Declan said from the doorway. You know where he went. Yes. And you will not tell me. He asked me not to. Declan hesitated. Arara, this is not what you think it is. You don't know what I think. I know what it looks like. The king leaving without explanation. I know how that reads to someone with your history, but I have known Soren Blackwood for 15 years, and I am telling you, he did not leave because of what he saw. I looked at Declan. Steady, the look I had perfected over 10 years at Shadowfang, the flat, emotionless expression that gives nothing away. Then why did he leave? Declan opened his mouth, closed it, looked at the floor. Then he said something that I did not understand until much later. Because he could not stay in the same building as you and remain calm enough to do what needed to be done. He left. I sat in the library and turned that sentence over in my mind like a stone, examining every surface, and I could not make it mean what I wanted it to mean. I could only hear he could not stay near me. He had to leave. The afternoon passed. Evening came. I ate dinner alone in the great hall for the first time in months. The servants watched me with careful, pitying eyes. They knew. The whole palace knew. The king was gone and the small white-haired woman was eating alone, and the story wrote itself. I went to bed in his shirt. His pillow still smelled like him. Pine and smoke and the deep, warm scent that I had come to associate with safety itself. I pressed my face into it, and I did the thing I swore I would never do again. I cried, not the quiet, controlled tears of a woman managing her pain. The ugly, heaving sobs of a girl who had been stupid enough to believe she could be loved, who had walked into a palace made of stone and let herself feel warm, who had fallen asleep on the chest of the most dangerous man alive and thought that it meant she was finally safe. The brand was still on my shoulder. It would always be on my shoulder, and no amount of warmth and safety and gentle hands could change what it meant. Owned, marked, property. The kind of woman that a king holds in the dark but cannot keep in the light. I cried until there was nothing left. Then I lay in the dark and waited. I woke to hooves on stone. Dawn. Barely. The gray light that exists before the sun decides whether it is coming. I went to the window and looked down into the courtyard. A single rider, coming through the gates. Sauron. His horse was lathered. Foam at the mouth. The animal had been ridden hard for hours, the kind of hard that kills lesser horses. Sauron dismounted, and I saw it. Blood on his knuckles. Not a lot. Enough. The dark, dried stain of someone else's blood on the hands of a man who had ridden through the night. His cloak was torn at the shoulder. His jaw was set in the way that meant his wolf was very close to the surface and being held there by nothing except will. He was carrying something, a long object wrapped in cloth. He held it at his side the way you hold something you despise, away from your body, with the tips of your fingers, as though touching it too fully would contaminate you. I left the window. I walked through the corridors. I descended the stairs. My bare feet on cold stone, his shirt hanging past my knees, my hair tangled from a night of crying into his pillow. I reached the great hall just as he entered from the courtyard. He stopped when he saw me. I stopped when I saw him. The hall was enormous between us, 50 feet of stone floor. Dawn light coming through the high windows in pale gray columns. He stood at one end. I stood at the other. And for a moment that lasted either a second or a lifetime, we just looked at each other. He was exhausted. I could see it. The lines around his eyes, the set of his jaw, the way he held his shoulders. Not with the usual effortless power, but with the deliberate tension of a man who has been holding himself together through will alone and is running out. He walked toward me. Each step echoed. His boots on stone. The sound that his presence always made, heavy, deliberate, inevitable. He stopped 3 feet from me, close enough that I could feel his wolf. That pressure, that heat. The furnace I had described the first morning I woke in his chambers. The warmth that every other wolf fled from and that I had curled into like a cat finding sunlight. He held out the wrapped object. I looked at it, looked at him. His amber eyes were not gold. They were dark, the deep, burnt amber that meant his wolf was present but contained, leashed, barely. "Open it," he said. His voice was raw, shredded. The voice of a man who has been riding through the night and has not spoken to anyone and has been alone with his fury for hours. I took the object, unwrapped the cloth. An iron. A branding iron. The kind heated in a forge and pressed into skin. Cain's crest, the fang inside the circle. Bent, twisted, destroyed. The metal warped and mangled as though someone had taken it in their bare hands and broken it the way you break a stick, which, I realized, looking at the raw burns on Sauron's palms, the burns I had not noticed until now, the burns from gripping heated metal with bare hands, was exactly what he had done. I stared at the ruined iron. Then I looked up at him. "You went to Shadowfang." "Yes, alone." "Yes, alone." "Yes." "You rode through the night to Cain's territory, alone, without guards, without telling anyone. I told Declan, Saren. My voice cracked. Cain has 200 warriors. He had 200 warriors. Past tense. Calm. The terrifying calm of a man stating a fact that no longer requires discussion. He now has significantly fewer who are willing to fight for him. What did you do? Saren looked at me. Then he knelt, the Alpha King of the Northern Territories, the most feared wolf in the world. He knelt on the stone floor of his great hall so that his eyes were level with mine. I went to the forge first, he said. I took the iron. Cain tried to stop me. He brought 12 wolves to the forge. I went through them. His voice was steady, recounting, not boasting, delivering information the way he delivered patrol reports. Clearly, efficiently, without embellishment. Then I found Cain. I showed him what it felt like. I stopped breathing. You branded him? On the shoulder, the left shoulder, so he would carry the same mark he put on you for the rest of his life. He paused. Then I broke the iron. So no one in Shadowfang will ever use it again. I was shaking, my hands, my arms, my whole body vibrating with something I could not name, not fear, not relief, something bigger, something that did not have a word. You left, I whispered. You saw the brand and you left without a word. I thought, I know what you thought. His eyes. Amber, dark, burning. I could not stay, Ara. I saw what they burned into your skin and my wolf. I could not control it. If I had stayed in that room one more second, I would have shifted. I would have torn through the palace. I would have terrified you. And I would rather ride alone through the night than let you see me become the thing everyone else sees when they look at me. What thing? The beast. I looked at this man. This enormous, terrifying, kneeling man with blood on his knuckles and burns on his palms and exhaustion carved into every line of his face. This man who had ridden alone into enemy territory in the dark because he saw a scar on my shoulder and could not live in a world where the person who put it there still breathed freely. I put my hands on his face. His eyes closed. A shudder ran through him, the full-bodied tremor of a man who has been holding everything in for hours and is finally being touched by the one person who can undo him. You are not a beast, I said. You are the man who rode through the night for me. You are the man who carried me out of the snow. You are the man whose heartbeat puts me to sleep, Ara'a, and I am not ashamed of the brand. His eyes opened. I said. For 4 months I hid it from you because I was terrified that you would see it and see what Cain saw. Property. Something owned. Something broken beyond repair. I traced the line of his jaw with my thumb. But you looked at it and you did not see property. You saw something that needed to be answered. You saw something that was wrong and you rode through the night to make it right. I pulled the collar of the shirt, his shirt down over my left shoulder, bared the scar, the raised, ridged, ugly mass of tissue that I had spent 4 months hiding. Look at it, I said. He looked. His jaw tightened, his eyes flickered gold. I felt his wolf press against the air between us, that furnace heat, that pressure, and I leaned into it the way I always did, the way I always would. This is what they did to me, I said, and this is what I survived. I am not ashamed of it anymore. I am not hiding it anymore. Not from you, not from anyone. He pressed his forehead against mine. His breathing was ragged. I felt something wet on my cheeks and realized it was not my tears. It was his. The Alpha King was crying. Not the way other men cry. Performed, restrained, dignified, the helpless, cracking tears of a man who has carried his pain alone for so long that he has forgotten what it feels like to set it down. I will spend the rest of my life making sure no one ever hurts you again, he said. I know, not because you are weak. I know, because you are mine, and what is mine I protect. I kissed him. I had to stand on my toes, and he had to still be kneeling, and even then I barely reached. It was graceless and imperfect, and it tasted like salt from both our tears. It was the best kiss of my life. He stood, lifted me as he rose, one arm effortless, and held me against his chest, my face in the curve of his neck, his arms locked around me, his wolf singing in his chest so loudly I could feel it in my teeth. I pressed my ear to his heart, the heartbeat that had been putting me to sleep for 4 months, still there, still steady, still mine. Don't leave again without telling me, I said. I will not. If you ride to war for me, I want to know. You will know. And if you ever see something on my body that makes your wolf lose control, wake me up. I would rather face the beast than wake up to a cold bed. He held me tighter. I will not leave you again. Not for 1 night, not for 1 hour. He kept that promise. He has kept it every night since. 3 things changed after that morning. The first, I stopped hiding the brand. I wore sleeveless dresses in the palace. I let the servants see. I let the warriors see. I let every wolf in the Northern Territory see what Shadowfang had done to me and what their king had done about it. The scar became something else, not a mark of ownership, a mark of survival. The wolves who saw it did not look at me with pity. They looked at me with something harder, something that lived between respect and fury. Respect for the woman who carried it, fury for the wolves who put it there. The second, my wolf woke up, not gradually, not the slow, flickering recovery that the healers had been tracking for months. The morning after Sauron came back, the morning after I bared the brand and stopped hiding and kissed the Alpha King on the floor of his great hall, I felt her rise inside me like a tide. She was not weak. She had never been weak. She had been hiding, the way I had been hiding, curled inward, protecting herself, making herself small because small things survive. But she was done being small. I shifted for the second time in my life, and my wolf, tiny white, the size of a fox beside Sauron's massive black wolf, threw her head back and howled. The sound that came out of her was not small. Sauron's wolf answered. The palace shook. The guards at their posts dropped to their knees, not from fear, from the sheer force of 2 bonded wolves singing together for the first time. Maren, the head healer, found me afterward. Her ancient eyes were wide. Your wolf, she said. I have never felt anything like that. The suppression hid it. For years it hid it. Hide what? Your wolf is not an Omega wolf, Ara. It never was. What Shadowfang beat down, what they branded and starved and tried to destroy, was an alpha female. I stared at her. They knew, Maren said quietly. They must have known. That is why they were so brutal. A true alpha female in an abusive pack is a threat. They tried to break your wolf before she could realize what she was. They failed. The third thing that changed, the Northern Territories gained a queen who was not fragile, not helpless, not the tiny broken woman who had stumbled out of the snow 4 months ago. I was still 5'2". I still weighed nothing compared to Sauron. I still slept on his chest every night and stole his black shirts and needed a stepping stool to reach the upper kitchen shelves. But I was not small. I had never been small. I had been compressed, folded down, beaten into a shape that was easier to control, and now unfolded with my wolf howling in my chest and the brand on my shoulder bare and the taste of my mate on my lips, I took up exactly as much space as I was meant to. There is a morning I return to. Months later, summer. The palace warm without fires. Sauron still asleep beside me, the only time he ever looks peaceful, the hard lines of his face softened, his wolf quiet, his breathing slow. I traced the burn scars on his palms, the ones he got from breaking the branding iron with his bare hands. They healed rough. He could have had Maren treat them, smooth them out, Erase them. He refused. Why do you keep them? I asked once. Same reason you stopped hiding yours, he said. They are proof of what I am willing to do for the people I love. I pressed my lips to his scarred palm. He watched me with amber eyes that were soft in a way that no one else in the world would ever see. The Beast King. The wrath of the North. Soft. For me. The brand on my shoulder and the scars on his hands. 2 marks. 1 story. The story of a woman who survived the worst thing a pack could do and a man who rode through the night to answer for it. I still sleep on his chest every night. His heartbeat still puts me to sleep. And some nights, when the palace is quiet and the fire is low and his wolf hums against my skin, I think about the girl who lay on a stone floor while 4 wolves held her down. I think about the iron, the scream she held behind closed lips, the years she spent hiding, and I think about the morning she stopped. That is where I will leave you tonight. If you made it here, if you stayed through the brand and the cold bed and the ride through the night and the iron on the great hall floor, I felt you here, every minute. Tell me something, in the comments. Tell me the moment that hit you hardest. Was it the cold bed? The 3 seconds the firelight caught the scar? The burned palms? I want to know. I read every single one. If you are new here, if this is the first voice you have heard on this channel, stay, subscribe. There are more stories here. Some are darker than this one. Some will wreck you. All of them are yours. I will see you in the next one.